Hi everyone, welcome back. We are headed into episode 4 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. After this episode, we will already be a quarter of the way through season 1.
Wow.
I kind of want to tell you, Jeanet, about the episode title. I wouldn't say it's particularly a massive spoiler because you like theories, but I'm
Mm.
curious, without knowing the title, what do you think possibly this episode could be about?
Just random speculation.
Yeah, like a random speculation of where you think it can go.
Mm. I know it might be cliche, but maybe werewolves?
Yeah.
Because we've had vampires, we've had witches. So either I would say ghosts or werewolves would be a likely candidate for the next one, unless we go back to the vampires. I could also see it being like, okay, vampires is still a very big part of the story, so we're gonna break up the vampirism with
Hmm.
some other things, but we're still gonna do vampires every second episode or something like that.
Okay. Well, I want you to hold on to that idea, those theories, just for what comes from this episode at the end, just to see if you
Okay.
were correct at all or you weren't. But also, when I tell you the title of the episode at the end, what goes into your head then, like when you start
Okay.
talking about in the review. So
Okay.
let's not forget, everyone, if you want to follow Janae's channel, I will leave a link in the description box below. I will also put our social medias and our Patreons if you want to go and click on them. Let's get into episode 4.
Oh, flashback. Or not?
May I cut in?
Go on, Xander.
Is Xander having a dream? What's going on?
Will you still be able to
Finish my solo and kiss you like you've never been kissed before?
My
Rock and
goodness.
roll, baby.
You're drooling?
Ah!
Xander, you've got a little.
Know the two ways that ants communicate. Miss Summers.
Ways that ants communicate.
Mm.
Uh, uh, touch, meow.
That would be touch and
Smell,
Miss
Buffy,
Summers.
come on.
Problems at your last school?
Well, what teenager doesn't?
Cut school, get in fights, burn down the gymnasium.
Yeah, everyday life.
Wait to see what you're gonna do here.
Destructo girl. It's me.
But I suspect it's gonna be great.
You mean great in a bad way?
There's a bad way to be great?
You have a first-rate mind and you can think on your feet. Imagine what you could accomplish if you actually did the
Homework thing.
I know you can excel in this class, and so I expect no less. Is that clear?
I actually appreciate this kind of teacher.
I was just going to say, I really appreciate that he believes in her because it's clear that so far no one else does.
Let's make him eat that permanent record. What do you say?
I really hope he doesn't turn out to be a bad guy, because he's really nice here. We just started liking him. Please don't kill him. Oh, that's interesting. I asked nicely. I actually have a new theory as to what it could be. What the monster of the week could be.
And
I think it might be a manticore. Because of the scorpion-like tail. And also there's a myth that the Queen of Monsters had a manticore as a pet, which I think could maybe be an interesting thing to explore, but I don't know if because that's Greek mythology, so that might not work.
Well, I guess we'll have to find out as the episode goes on. Keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
that's
You
true.
never know.
7, including Cheryl. I'll tell you though, her sister was looking to make it 8.
Ooh, Cheryl's sister? The one in college?
Well, I mean, he looks like he's 35.
Girls really gotta have something to go with me.
Something like the lobotomy?
The guy with him.
Ooh, duty calls. Babes!
Babes?
Work with me here. Blaine had the nerve to question my manliness. I'm just gonna give him a visual.
We'll show him.
Of course, Willow would be like, yes.
I don't believe it.
I know, and after all my conquests. Who's that?
That must be Angel.
I love that she's
Oh, yeah, this is where they
talking about
meet him.
Well, he's buff. She never said anything about him being buff.
You think he's buff?
He's a very attractive man. How come that never came up?
Okay,
I love
Xander.
that you can admit that, Xander.
You're cold.
You can take it.
Mean.
Oh my word!
He's coming.
The fork guy.
Don't let him corner you. Don't give him a moment.
He is always so vague.
Mm.
I have to go.
I mean, I'm not gonna harp too much on it because it's a trope that has its strengths and weaknesses.
Well, it
So
definitely
it's fine.
works, though. Yeah, it works, because obviously
Mm.
he's a mystery.
Yeah.
God, every day here is the same.
Bright, sunny, beautiful. However, can we escape this storm?
I love that.
We're British. It's different for us.
Thing about missing.
He's missing.
Well, let me think. The cheerleaders were modeling their new short skirts. I kind of got. Yeah, they said missing.
Interesting.
Which is bad.
If something's wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of the only teachers that doesn't think Buffy's a felon.
It's the look Buffy gives Willow.
I huh.
Could you help me?
Oh, it's
And here I thought the personal thing that we were dealing with might impersonate the guy we like, but this is somehow worse.
It's not far from the varsity field where I took all city last year.
Oh, thank you, Blaine.
I'm not
Ugh,
with that
Blaine.
strut.
It's funny how the earth never opens up and swallows you when you want it to.
They just call and tell me where they want me.
I'll tell you where I want you.
The praying mantis is a fascinating creature, forced to live alone.
I don't know why I'm stuck on the Mother of Monsters right now, because she had an affinity for insects, but
There is nothing
Sorry.
Well,
ugly
no,
about these
go
unique
for it.
creatures.
There's always
The
references to
reason they live
things.
alone is because they're cannibals. She covers the eggs in a protective sac and attaches it to a leaf or twig out of danger. In a few months, she'll have several hundred offspring.
Whoa.
We should make some model egg sacs for the science fair.
Oh, you mean human size?
Who would like to help me do that after school?
All the guys.
Oh, I understand.
Good.
A younger man is too dumb to wonder why an older woman can't find someone her own age and too desperate to care about the surgical improvement.
Oh.
You came in second, I came in first.
Well,
I guess that's what they call natural selection.
Right.
I
Okay.
guess that's what they call a rehearsal.
That's
Guess
actually a good
what?
comeback. That was actually a good
I'm sorry,
comeback.
I didn't even hear that one. What was? it?
Go back.
First, guess that's what they call natural selection.
Guess that's what they call it, rehearsal.
Rehearsal.
Only be here as long as I can hold my breath.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Why is it always you?
I've never seen, I mean, I've never seen anything like, that was new.
Ah,
Who'd want to hurt Dr. Gregory?
Yeah, he was a really nice man.
he was so nice. Of course
Oh,
he had to
Buffy's
die because he was
crying.
too nice.
He was killed on campus. I'm guessing the last day we saw him.
How do you work that out?
He didn't change his clothing.
Where do they put his head?
Good point. I didn't want to hear that.
Work guy doesn't do heads.
Not historically.
And Dr. Gregory's blood wasn't drained.
So there's something else out there? Oh, this is fun. We're on Monster Island.
Ah, nice reference.
Center of mystical convergence.
Yeah, it's kind of what you guys signed up for when you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, this is what's gonna happen when you decided you were gonna help Buffy out.
I know you're upset, but this is no time to go hunting. Not until we know more. Please promise me you won't do anything rash.
Cross my heart.
You didn't promise him, she just said cross her heart.
I'm just glad because for a moment, I thought they were using the professor's body as a larva nest or something like that. Somehow this is better. Oh, that's great. No. Ah. Oh, that's terrifying.
Do you know Miss French, the teacher that's subbing for Dr. Gregory?
Yes, yes, she's lovely. We're in a common, extremely well-proportioned.
Well proportioned is heading home. The Claw Guy takes one look at her and runs screaming for cover.
You what? Ran away?
He was petrified.
Of Miss French? I think perhaps it would be a good idea if we kept an eye on her.
And I better get to class.
I really appreciate the fact that he didn't doubt her.
Yeah, he listened to her.
But I really, really
No! You have to talk to a counselor and start the healing. You have to heal.
No, Mr. Flutie, I don't...
Heal!
Oh,
It sounds like a dog. What the hell?
It was. Let's just say I haven't been able to eat a thing since yesterday. I think I lost like 7.5 ounces. I'm not saying that we should kill a teacher every day just so I can lose weight. I'm just saying when tragedy strikes, we have to look on the bright side. Use Mercedes.
yeah. I mean,
Buffy's face.
she's a glass half full type person.
Buffy's face was just everything. Oh my goodness. Oh, stay away from him, please. That neck went a little bit far.
A little
Did
bit,
she
but also
realize that
she's in a
her-
classroom full of students.
Yeah.
Try looking under things that can turn their heads all the way around.
Nothing human can do that.
No, nothing human. But there are some insects that can.
What are you going to do?
My homework.
Wow.
Go on, Buffy.
Can you imagine? It would be so epic.
Where are the books on bugs?
It would be so epic if she defeats her because she listened to the
teachings of
professor's
the teacher,
advice.
yeah.
It feels a little bit just.
Where do we start?
Oh, Xander. I've done something really stupid.
Forgiveness is my middle name. Well, actually, it's Lavelle, and I'd appreciate it if you guard that secret with your life.
Novelle.
I don't suppose you'd like to come to my place tonight to work on it there.
He's a 16-year-old boy.
Come
Of
to,
course he would.
Your place. Yes!
No. You could at least kill them, otherwise you're gonna let them loose in the school.
Only the praying mantis can rotate its head like that. Factoid 2, a pretty whacked out vampire scared to death of her. Factoid 3, her fashion sense screams predator.
Does.
It's the shoulder pads.
If I recall correctly, poor old Carlisle, just before he went mad, claimed there was some beast.
Buffy
No,
911.
shh.
Blaine's mom called the school. He never came home last night. Xander's supposed to be helping her right now. He's got a crush on a giant insect.
Okay,
It's not ideal.
At least he's not crushing on Buffy in this moment.
I would prefer that, actually.
I'm gonna have to tell you something about her, and I'm gonna need you to really listen, okay? I don't think she's human.
I see. So if she's not human, she's...
Technically, a big bug.
I guess she heard.
I've met someone, and you're jealous.
Of what?
She's not an insect. She's a woman, okay? And hard as that may be for you to conceive, an actual woman finds me attractive. While we're on the subject, what kind of a girly name is Angel, anyway?
What does that have to do?
Nothing. It just kind of bugs me.
Well, then you and Miss French make a perfect pair.
I just need to relax a little. I'm kind of nervous around you.
Hello.
Cheers.
I think he does such a good job of portraying a teenage boy in these moments.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was, several. I mean, and, no.
Oh.
I know. I can tell.
You can't?
Oh, shit! The way you said that.
You like to touch me with those hands.
No.
Your hands are really...
Oh, it's the noise.
I saw him leave school. He's probably safe at home right now.
Why would
Think
you
you
guys
might be
assume
wrong.
that?
Yeah, that's a weird assumption, especially because they had a bit of an argument.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Are you all right?
I feel so bad because probably he's gonna die because he's on the list before Xander.
She starts moving and throbbing. And these eggs come shooting out of her. And then what? And then what? She mates with you.
See if you can get her address off the substitute rolls. And you need to record bat sonar and fast.
I'm assuming.
Bats eat them. The mantis hears
Yeah.
sonar, its entire nervous system goes kaplooey.
Where am I going to find
In the vid library. There are no books, but it's dark and musty. You'll feel right at home. Go.
I love how smart she is.
Can we just appreciate that she's the one who put this plan together? She knew exactly how to disarm it, where you could look for stuff, and yet, like, that's so impressive to me with Buffy that she just like had it all like ready at hand. Like, this is what we need to do.
Yeah, and I love that her leadership skills really show in that kind of moments without it feeling overbearing.
Very true.
Hello, dear. I thought I heard. Are you selling something?
At this time?
'Cause
I'm looking for Miss French.
I'm Miss French.
Natalie French, the substitute biology teacher.
Goodness, that's me.
I can't believe this. She used Miss French's records to get into the school. She could be anywhere.
No, dear. I'm right here.
Do you have a tenant staying with you, perhaps?
Come on, Xander. I mean, that didn't last long.
The attempt was appreciated.
Yeah.
She's gonna lay some.
The California mantis lays her eggs and then finds a mate to fertilize them.
Yeah.
This is gonna be grim. Oh. Ah.
You.
Me.
She got him so quickly.
Which house is it? I know you're afraid of her. I saw you. Come on.
That's very smart.
Come on.
Definitely. So smart.
This is her, isn't it? This is her house. This is it.
Look, she's not in the mood today. I mean, that's technically a stake. Get creative. That's hilarious.
Hey, help me! Help me!
We are. Wait.
He taught me. You do your homework, you learn stuff. Like what happens to your nervous system when you hear this.
Extremely important.
Oh my! Sorry, I went up a concept for a second. Go, 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 go.
That sonar makes your whole nervous system go to hell.
Nice use of shadows.
Yeah. Because we don't want to see that.
Buffy the eggs.
Yeah.
Just for the record, you were right. I'm an idiot, and God.
I love that.
It's so unfair how she only went after virgins.
Willow.
Willow, you didn't have to say that.
I mean, here you guys are doing the right thing. The smart
Yeah, there was no
thing,
need
when
for her
a
to
lot of
say
other
this.
boys your age.
This gives very much the same effect as the piñata.
Yeah, very much so.
Of course, it would make things easier if I knew how to get in touch with you.
I mean, he just pops
I'll
up.
be around.
Well, anyway, you can have your jacket back.
Looks better on you.
It does look epic on her.
Did you notice she had it throughout the show? She was wearing it. Sorry, the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like
Oh boy.
that jacket is
Buffy.
quite signature to her. Wow. Oh, great.
Dun dun dun.
Hmm.
So that was episode 4. Would you like to know the title?
Yeah.
Teacher's Pet.
Oh. Okay, yeah, no, that I would not have guessed. It's a bit of a, like, I get kind of where it's coming from, but it's also not as obvious as all the other ones.
Okay, so maybe I could have told you the episode title because that would have made theories go wild and rampant in your head, which would have been fun to
Yes.
listen to, obviously, because it's always fun to listen to a theory because you never know if
Mm.
you're going to be correct or if you're going to be wrong. In this case, obviously,
Yeah.
you weren't correct, but I appreciate what you came up with.
Yeah, and I feel like it was very much a thing of once she came into the picture in terms of presenting the class, it became quite obvious where in the realm of things, it
Mm.
became quite a narrow scope of what she could be, because she basically spelled it out. So yeah, all of the theories before that was very much
Out the window. I do appreciate that they always had her in green eyeshadow.
oh, I didn't even notice that.
I don't think that's what most people would notice, but because obviously I've seen the episode before, it was one of those things that I didn't notice probably the first few times I watched this because it's not something that I personally would think about. It's only because I was like, that's actually very smart when I did see it, that they play on that because obviously they spell it out. She has a whole class dedicated to the praying mantis and what they do. But then the fact that she always had green eyeshadow though, and obviously she's a green insect, and it was quite nicely intertwined with like what was going on. I thought that was a very nice
Mm.
detail that I think most people probably wouldn't notice at first unless you're someone very
Mm.
fashion conscious and fashion forward. What did you think of the episode?
Um, hmm, it wasn't as fun for me as the previous episode, which I think is appropriate because I feel like this is the first time that we see um Buffy kind of dealing with a loss that personally affects her. Um, so I feel like it also wouldn't have quite hit as hard as it did if they'd played it in the same way that they played the previous episode. Um, and also like the topics that were kind of discussed, like vaguely touched on there at the end because of the nature of her. Um,
Mm.
it was just kind of a very serious episode. With most of the previous events, you can kind of more or less excuse the public consciousness of from erasing the events from their minds. But I am curious about the guy who was with Xander there, because it just, even if he doesn't quite know what he saw, it is a very specific thing and it's a very traumatic thing. So maybe the trauma will cause him to kind of push it to the side. But otherwise, I do wonder how he's going to internalize that if we ever get a follow up on it.
I would
Um,
imagine from that, it's only now I'm thinking about it, probably he won't say anything because of the whole virgin thing. That
mm,
might be why he wouldn't like go about mentioning it and wanting to forget it, because he was more concerned that people would find out he's lying about all the people he slept with. But you know,
mm,
I think they all know he's lying, because what teenage boy exaggerates clearly that much and has slept with that many people? It's very rare to get
mm,
that. But I imagine the whole finding out that everyone might find out he's a virgin would stop him from speaking. I feel like Blaine
mm,
is very shallow. There isn't really much
yeah,
to him, or at least in
yeah,
terms of the show. That's the excuse that maybe he won't speak
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it's because it's interesting. I think not so much the fact that he's a virgin. It's, it's whatever. I don't think you have to have a body count if you're a teenager. Um,
Yes.
but the fact that they kind of played with the trope of stereotypically his profile would have actually, you know, had at least one or two experiences in that
Yeah.
realm.
Yeah.
Um, so it was kind of interesting where for me at least, I didn't immediately put together, oh, he's here, which means he must
Yeah.
also be a
Of course.
virgin,
Yeah.
even though that had already been mentioned at the point where we saw him. And kind of, it's a very interesting little detail that I actually really like.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry. I
so
was
you
listening
were.
there. No, I completely agree. That's what's so good. I find about the writing, which is that
Mm,
little detail that kind of you gloss over and then it came back. And it's nice because it is that little hint, because you do think in terms of especially how he looks, as you said, his profile, plus how shows are written, especially in the 90s and US
yeah,
teen
exactly.
shows, he would have more than likely it would have been a reference to him having, as you said, a body count. But in this case, he doesn't. And it's one of
Mm,
those things where you go, because I feel like they subverted a lot of what you thought could happen. So we had a female
mm,
prey on a male instead of it being a male preying on a
mm,
female, which I think a lot of shows would have done at the time, because I think it would have sent
yeah.
more of a message, because obviously there's always a metaphor in Buffy, and that
Mm,
was like part of it with the preying on a student, and in this case she just happened to be an actual praying mantis, or she mantis, so they
mm,
took the whole real life side of it and then flipped it to the supernatural side,
yeah.
so that there's always that message interlinked with the story, so that there's a real message.
Yeah, and the fact that Buffy kind of spelt it out at the beginning, where she was like, "Oh, why would an adult be interested in a kid?" That was such a powerful statement, and I feel like it hit harder because it was the reverse dynamic from what you would usually see. Because I feel like if it was the typical dynamic of, oh, it's a older male teacher and a
Mm,
younger female student, then it becomes very, oh, we've heard this 1,000 times
yeah.
before, kind of, just gloss over the fact that regardless of what the gender is, it's an important message and kids need to be aware.
And I still personally think a message that is very important to this day. It isn't something,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that has gone away. As a screenwriter, I have to ask you, what did you view of the storytelling, the A plot, the B plot, all of that? Did you think they did a good job in telling these kind of A and B plots and putting them together?
Um, hmm, it's difficult for me because in some senses I think they did a really good job, and other senses there were weak spots.
Mm,
Um, so as I mentioned, the fact that as soon as she presented the class on the praying mantis, most of the mystery was gone.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so that like could have been held off on a little bit longer, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, that I would point as a very obvious weak spot. No, so the so that was a very obvious weak spot, but as you said, the subversions of the typical tropes kind of, I felt, brought something to the table, so that was a bonus,
Mm,
or that was like a plus in terms of the writing. I feel like, I don't know, I would have to see the other episodes before I can really truly flesh out my feelings on this one, because I would have to see how it compares
yeah, I
with
understand that.
this
Yeah.
one. Um, but yeah, just off the cuff, those are kind of my general thoughts about it.
So a big issue I had was, I guess, B C plot was with that vampire with the claw. I understand
Mm.
that obviously he had to be used to find Natalie French at the end, but as an overall story arc or anything, it was just lackluster for me. I really
Mm.
didn't feel that they really needed to include that story arc. I understand why they did, but it wasn't engaging for me, even for a BC, whatever form they are in plot wise. And
Yeah, I wouldn't even have considered it a plot, to be fair. I didn't register it as being any of the A, B, or C plot.
mm,
Um, so it depends, because as I say, I have a tendency towards like filling in plot holes. Um, so for me, I had a lot of questions because of
yeah,
the this guy, and it could be good or it could be bad depending on if it's answered. So for me, I think it was good in the sense that we saw how much stronger Buffy is getting, because she sorted out a guy that might have been in an earlier episode. He might have been the main threat of the episode. She sorted out in like 2 seconds flat.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
she really did.
like that as a concept is quite interesting if that's what they were intending.
Mm,
Which, let's be kind and say that was what they were intending. Then great. And also it pointed out to me, at least, the fact that it seems like whoever Angel is, he either deals with one specific form of supernatural, or he has blind spots, because
ah,
he he showed, or he warned Buffy about this threat that she sorted out in 2 seconds flat, and he for some reason seemed not to be able to sort out, which is also interesting to note. But he had no like qualms about telling her about the actual very big threat, or he wasn't aware of it. So either way, quite an interesting thing. So yeah, I feel like there, if these were things that they were intending to bring to the audience's attention, it actually wasn't a badly utilized character, even though he had very little screen time.
I imagine, and this is just in my head, I probably imagine that him and Cordelia, who were barely used. I mean, Cordelia was used a bit more, obviously, especially for comedic effect. But I gathered that they might have just been used because they need to be in a certain amount of episodes. When you pay your an actor, uh, especially someone like Cordelia,
Oh
who's in the main credits.
no, I don't mean Angel. I mean the claw guy. He
Oh,
was, yes. I
oh,
feel like
so okay,
even though he was barely there, if the questions that I have because of him
oh, okay.
are intentioned, then it's fine. If not, mm.
So never mind about that part then. About
But yeah, no.
paying the actors to be in scenes as little as possible.
I
Um,
mean, it's interesting though.
yeah, you do have to pay the actors. You also have to pay for them to have a certain amount of lines if they're a main
Mm,
character or main guest. That's why Cordelia wasn't really in it. But again, I guess the damsel in distress again that we spoke about, she kind of was in this moment because it was her who found the teacher's
mm.
headless body, I
Body.
should say. But yeah, for me, this episode reminds me of Goosebumps. I don't know if you ever watched that growing up.
No, but I mean, I am culturally aware of it, so I get
Yeah.
kind of the gist what you mean.
Okay, so what you know, Goosebumps I think was still out at the time Buffy was out as well, but it's the film.
Mm,
I guess it's the frame rates, it's the cameras they're using, plus it was all in dark. But obviously Goosebumps was R.L. Stein who did. I don't know if you've seen the Fear Street trilogy, which were really good, but obviously it's kind of children's horror stories,
mm,
with like a dark twist, and it felt very much like a Goosebumps episode as well. So for me, it felt like almost so kind of disjointed from the first three episodes, even though technically
mm,
filmed with the same camera, the same style, all of that. But something about this episode always felt a bit detached for me. And I think it's because over time I have grown to appreciate this episode. And I think
mm,
when you do rewatches, 'cause we get to do rewatches, it it will be something that I think you grow to appreciate. It's just for me, it
mm,
was very much a Goosebumps episode. They explained everything a bit too on the nose. I felt for you, like to be
mm.
like figuring things out at points, not at every moment, but a few points here and there. I just felt the claw guy was, um, I don't know. It's just It felt like she captured him so quickly just for him to point out where Natalie French lived to fill in a plot hole. There was no
Mm,
real. I don't know. There was just something missing from this episode for me because it had
yeah.
a good messaging about the preying on a student and the whole praying mantis, and something I never liked the first time I watched it, but I do
Mm,
now. This is a Xander centric episode, which was
yeah.
really nice to see because it means that you can delve away from it being solely focused on Buffy and actually get to see a little bit of the other characters and their stories and their arcs and what they go through, which I
Mm,
appreciate because it's nice. Like it was nice. And also we
mm,
got to see not just it being a Xander centric episode, how smart Buffy is and how much she actually listened in that class because a teacher believed in her.
yeah. Yeah, and like for me, I feel like maybe it's also the thing of you've watched the entire series, so you have a lot to compare it to. Um, but for me, I actually feel like this episode still delivered because we got so much emotion from Buffy. We got to see her again being very smart and resourceful, and her leadership skills kind of coming out a little bit more. Um, and it was an interesting, like in terms of creative choices. I felt it was quite interesting the way we got into Xander's head at moments
Yeah.
with the way they started it and then the way they kind of finished it. Um, and I thought you were gonna say we got to see how smart Xander was, because again, he kind of like fills in to me the moments where Buffy's foresight lacks, like the fact that he played pinata with the eggs.
Yeah, that was a good
Um,
moment. Yeah.
So, like, I do feel like there was still a lot to grasp onto with this episode that made up for the not so great moments. Um,
Well, that's what I can appreciate about two people
so,
watching this is that we will have a different viewpoint, a different stand on the
mm,
episode, and that's something I like because something you can talk about could open my eyes up to something
Mm.
that I didn't think about before. And again, I'm trying to focus on just in reference it to the 3 episodes we've watched before, not
Mm.
what's to come, but just
Mm.
these episodes. Again, we are looking at season 1. We are looking at a show that is still finding its footing, it's still understanding itself. The budget will be less. That's because I think the reason we didn't see the praying she mantis fully was
Mm.
I think it was something borrowed from another set. So they couldn't actually show it or couldn't really like destroy it. That's why, we
Yeah.
didn't see like the death, we saw the shadows, but I think it was taken from another set. I think so.
Oh. No, because that was something that I kind of thought about as we were watching it. I thought it was so clever how they used the shadows to make it
Mm.
seem more ominous than it probably would have been if you'd seen it with full lighting. Because
Yeah, I think it would have looked
the
bad.
costuming and things of that time, even if they had a good budget, would not have held up as well
Yeah, yeah,
today.
yeah.
So the use of shadows and that was really well done.
Also, it was nice because they could, as you saw, they could make the shadow of the she mantis shrink more and more, and that I
Mm.
kind of liked that. I thought that was a nice imagery, an image that sets in your mind when it's happening, because
Mm.
obviously the sound effects, and all of that, folio artists had a time of their life because they must
Mhm.
have been like, okay, because the amount of sound effects, and it's something you don't pick up on at first, but it's like it's so interesting, just like the squelching noises and all of that actually
Mm.
help the episode. It pulls it forward. The uncomfortable moments are better when you can hear that sound, those sound effects
Mm.
added on. Again, Buffy's intelligence is just so brilliant in this because
Mm.
no one else thought of the things she was thinking of, apart from, as you said, the
Mm.
few blind spots she had where Xander filled it in. But she was the
Mm.
one to realize it's a mantis, to realize
Mm.
like it turns its head around, the teeth marks, the bat sonar, to get the vampire. This was such a good episode to show how much ingenuity Buffy does really have, especially
Mm.
because you spoke about this, about emotions, about how she was going to be in an emotional side of things, because this was a teacher who genuinely believed in her. And we have yet, apart
Mm.
from Giles, we haven't seen a teacher show that sort of care
Mm.
for her.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately, like even though she doesn't mean to, and I don't think this is like ever a general problem, but it might become a problem at some point. Is I think she does take Giles for granted because he's different. He's viewing her as the Slayer. He's not viewing her as a teenager going through the same struggles that all other teenagers go through on top
Mhm.
of being a Slayer. So I don't think she values his opinion in the same way she values the teacher who only knows her as Buffy and other students, you know.
Mm.
Um, so
Yeah,
that's also a thing.
I actually really like who they hired to play like Natalie Fredge. I think the actress did an amazing job
Yes,
because
wasn't she in maybe no, I think I'm totally wrong. I thought she might have been in one of the Charlie's Angels movies.
uh, are you talking about the ones with Cameron Diaz and Lucy Liu?
Yeah.
Demi Moore was in one. No, she's not, because but she has been in other things. Yeah, I really appreciate like what she did here, because as you spoke about earlier, the femme fatale element of her,
Mm.
and like just the music that introduces her, the slow motion, Xander's look at her, the way she would speak, I thought was brilliant.
Mm.
How her inflections would change when she was trying to be coy to
Yeah.
Xander.
And I feel like she did a good job of not sounding too otherworldly at times. You know how like the vampires very much have that thing where they sometimes sound very otherworldly. It just I like the fact that her speech wasn't as archaic as the vampires,
Yeah.
um which I thought was really great. Like it had kind of something strange about it, but it didn't feel too inhuman, which makes sense because obviously she would have had to learn how to seduce humans so that she could have the best chance of laying the eggs.
That's a
But
brilliant point. That is actually a really brilliant point, what you're bringing up, which is she's clearly very, very old. We just
mm,
don't know how old. But the fact that she has learned and adapted to speak how at least to be passable as human, I think is a very good thing to
mm,
point out, because usually in shows when it's someone who's very old, their language and the use of language kind of gives them away. In this way,
mm,
it didn't. She just felt very sultry, very sensual, and very in
mm.
line with the whole seduction element, but not her speech. I think that's a brilliant point you just made there.
Yeah. But my question is,
Oh yeah.
and I don't know if I should answer this because one way or another you might end up actually accidentally giving it away. Let me rather just make a statement instead of asking you. I really hope that the ending of the eggs, like um, the underneath the or in the closet, that it comes back, because I really dislike those kinds of, oh, here's uh, a kind of a cliffhanger-ish
Yeah,
unresolved
I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you
point,
mean. Mm.
that then ends up not coming back at any point. It's like, you could have just left it. We get that this could still be a problem, or others like her could still exist. You don't need to leave a loose end like that,
Mm. I
just
see
to
what you
make
mean. I
us
see what
want
you
to
mean.
watch
Yeah.
the next episode.
Mm.
So
I always felt sorry for Dr. Gregory or Professor Gregory,
mm.
whichever he was, because obviously I'm going to gather he was a virgin by the fact that he was
Oh,
killed.
yes.
Uh, and there is a theory going around that he might have been gay, but that's not a correct theory. That's just what the fans have made up,
Mm,
which would maybe go in line with, the fact that possibly he couldn't come out at that time period. I'm
mm,
not certain, but I'm going to guess as well that the person whose house she was in must
mm.
have been a virgin for her to like
Oh,
take over the house,
yes.
unless it was vacated. I
Mm,
wasn't particularly clear on that, or it wasn't clear on that. But the teacher's story to me is very sad, and something that I never noticed for several watches is he was in the previous episode, just in the background as a teacher, and I never
that's a
noticed.
nice touch.
That's a brilliant touch in this show, something that I really didn't notice numerous times on watching it. It was,
Mm,
I think, I'm not sure if maybe I saw a reaction or I just happened to catch him one time in the previous episode, and I was like, that's a very
mm,
smart detail, because it was a curious moment why he was brought up. It's like, why is this teacher
mm,
become a focal point for the beginning of the episode, and then realizing actually he was in the episode before, and
mm.
I just feel really bad for Buffy because it was the one teacher, and they're gone, because we don't know how the
Yeah.
other teachers view her, because we know that she's a bit truant, because she definitely skips
Mm,
classes, because we've already seen her skip classes. But
yeah.
yeah, in terms of episodes, yeah, just I've grown to appreciate it more as it's gone
Mm,
on. But I do agree that compared to the third episode, or the first three, is kind of a dip, but I guess an intentional one because of what you
mm,
experienced in the first three.
yeah. Okay. Do you
Would you
want to
like to
end
sign us
it?
out?
No.
Okay. Okay, everyone, that was episode 4 of season 1 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Teacher's Pet, and we will be back soon with episode 5.